Thanks for tuning in to the 6-3 podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and my co-host, Ben, and we're going to load up on Michigan rankings since Y2K. We're going to start out with fullbacks. It's not as popular of a position, so we're going to do top 5 fullbacks just because we want to show some love. We'll probably end up getting a top 5 long snappers at some point, too.
Probably
Cam,
won't be
Cam Cheeseman, number one.
Cam Cheeseman. Yeah, I'll give him that.
Yeah. And then we'll do wide receivers and tight ends today, and then we'll do a top 10 mock draft through PFF.
All right.
So yeah, Ben, get the first overall pick for the top fullback since Y2K.
All right, I'm gonna put Khalid Hill here, and it's just because of his his 2016
13
stats.
career touchdown runs.
His 2016 stats are the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life. All right, 13 games played, 25 carries, 39 yards, 10 touchdowns, 16 catches, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So he had 13 touchdowns as a fullback his junior year. Pretty impressive. That's just that I don't know if we'll see that again. That's pretty rare, especially with the offenses that teams are running now and whatnot. I don't really see that happening. So,
and it's while he had 13 career rushing touchdowns for a fullback. That's already crazy. Like you're walking back to like Mike Allstott. Granted, these are all 1-yard touchdown runs.
Right, and he's the definition of like that vulture guy for fantasy football who you'd love to have on your team, but you're like, I can't really start him because he might not score for like 4 weeks straight.
Emergency flex.
Yeah. But he might have 4 touchdowns in one game. And on 4 carries.
He did once. He did. Yeah, I think he might have had 3 or 4 in one game.
So it's like, I don't really know what I can do here. So he's definition of that. And he was a good receiver. I mean, he kind of went back and forth for a while there between tight end and fullback, and a lot of these hardball guys did that. So, overall, I think he's a really good football player. He was fun to watch that 2016 season.
2. Give me the 2017 to 2020 run of Ben Mason.
Yep.
Pat probably had one of the worst like numbers in rushing yards, receiving yards. He had 9 touchdown runs still, which is good, but he's the epitome of a fullback.
Yeah.
That an active fullback today. Like you just lead block and try to tear some dude's head off. And Ben Mason was like that guy that was more than willing to like lower his shoulder at anyone and just play. I mean, that's why they tried him at defensive tackle. It didn't work very well. He was a horrendous defensive tackle.
He was bad. Yeah.
Just a really strong fullback that would do anything you'd ask of him.
Yeah, he was good. He would run through a brick wall. So
Dan Campbell guy.
I think, I mean, I think he would he'd fit in with Dan Campbell for sure. I am gonna go with Kevin Dudley.
Ooh, 3. Kevin Dudley.
He had 0 touchdowns in his career receiving and 0 touchdowns rushing in his career, but he was probably the best blocking fullback I may have ever seen. Blocked from Mike Hart his freshman year and Chris Perry's senior year. So Mike Hart had one of the better freshman years as a running back ever, and Chris Perry was a Heisman finalist. So we'll give Kevin Dudley some credit there. And then just look up like the first picture that pops up when you type in Kevin Dudley, Michigan football. He looks like a fullback. Right, he probably came into school probably about 6'2" and then left it 6 feet tall because he hit people so many times. He just looks like his head got pushed down further into his body. So he's got like no neck.
There's not a whole lot actually on my Google search. Kevin Dudley. Oh, why did it? Okay, there is. For some reason, I typed in Kelly.
Yeah, his name's Kelly.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's got a tank of a face too.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. Was an excellent blocker. Yeah, he was just good. So he's the first fullback I remember vividly. Maybe a couple other guys, but I'm putting Dudley on the list.
My man.
Yeah, there he is, right there. Second picture.
What? There's a Kevin Dudley face if I've ever seen one.
That's him.
There he is, kind of sitting right back there behind Lloyd.
He didn't touch the ball much. That's okay.
No, it's not his responsibility.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a good one. Give me for the reason of flow. I'm taking Sayuni Huma.
I like Kuma.
Also spent some time in the NFL with the Saints for I think a year or two. But I think he had a good chunk of touchdown runs too, if I remember right. He finished with 5. So I think that's probably third of Michigan fullbacks since 2000.
Yep.
Um,
Seems right. Yeah.
he was just a short yardage guy. Back when Michigan had like 3 fullbacks there going back and forth. I mean, they had a carriage around that time too, and it just had seemed like they had just a platoon of fullbacks they could throw in there just to rake some dudes for yardage. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I like Huma. He was very tenacious, and his tattoos and his hair, they just fit everything you want in a Samoan fullback.
Okay. I like that one. Um, let's see. I don't know. Couple guys on here that I don't mind. I don't hate. Hmm, I don't know.
You got to finish strong here. It's gonna be a tough call.
I know. Let me see here.
I don't think they have a fullback on their roster the last several years. So
Not technically. And we didn't we BJ Askew doesn't really count as a fullback, even
no, we
though
already put him on our running
I
backs.
know he played a ton of fullback, especially in like 2000 in front of Anthony Thomas. They put them both back there, and he was a fullback, and he was fullback in the NFL. Um, but I won't count him. Let's see.
John McColgan, Mark Moondros, Joe
Yeah,
Carriage.
I'm gonna count. Hmm, I'm gonna count. We'll just give it to Mark Moondros. Why not? Was a great blocker. You know,
Some linebacker too.
yeah, played some linebacker. You see that kind of crossover a lot with a lot of these guys. 6'1", 233 from Farmington Hills. We'll give him a shout out there. 2-year starter. Um, let's see his full stats. He had 1 touchdown rushing and 1 touchdown receiving. But rushed for 14 career yards. Not great. But we're talking about fullbacks here. So guy looks like a fullback, just bald and stocky and looks like he'd hurt you. So we're gonna go with Mark Moondros there.
All right. It's a good
I
one.
think this list proves how absurd, even Ben Mason's, but how absurd Khalid Hill's stat line was for that one season. That just doesn't happen.
No one put up those kind of numbers besides.
Mason
Yeah, I
had
mean,
moments,
like I
don't get me
said,
wrong.
Mason and 9, and so it's only 4 short of career, but
Yeah, but
it's
Hill did that in 1 year. It was crazy. So
they had some they had a nice little gauntlet of fullbacks for a minute there.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right. Then from there we can go to let's go wide receiver.
Okay. All right.
We'll pick first here for wide receiver. And to me, I think is this one's pretty easy for me.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Braylon Edwards.
Yep.
Number 1. Since 2001, 2004, he had over 250 catches in his career there, over 3,500 receiving yards, and nearly 40 touchdown catches. An incredible asset for John Navarre his entire career there.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, does are we counting David Terrell?
Let's see, when did he finish his career there? 2000. So yes, he
Last
was in
year.
there with the
Yeah.
Drew Henson. Yep.
Okay, he's on the list then. All right, just want to make sure. Um, I'll go with David Terrell. Uh, Crazy good senior season, especially. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up all his stats here. Um, Come on. I don't want his pro stats. His pro stats were disappointing.
Yeah, he was kind of a bust because I think he was a first round pick still.
He was like number 3 overall.
Uh-huh.
He was very good. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Not showing up. All right. Yeah. So 2005 yards, 137 catches. Senior year, he was just under 1,000 yards. Almost 1,000 yards his junior year as well. 13 touchdowns his senior year. As Tom Brady's target. And you got to remember that the passing game was not what it is in college right now with this. And yeah, he was 8th overall pick in the first round by the Bears. He busted because he was the Bears for sure.
Yeah, this is those are good numbers. Um,
There were some guys back in the day, like some older guys that were, I would say, were
yeah,
bust. But,
yeah.
uh,
I think I'm trying to like weigh the receptions, yards, touchdowns, um, average yards per catch. And I think I'm gonna go with Mario Manningham.
okay, yeah.
Um, Nearly 140 catches, 2,300 plus yards, 17 yards per catch, and 27 touchdown catches. And then he had some chunk runs too on like jet sweeps and end arounds, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
He
Manningham had the
he
size
was
that you wanted to as a wide receiver.
he was one of the first like big play receivers that I remember. I was like, oh man, this guy's like
Mhm.
legit. Um, you know, I think, yeah, I think overall, like he definitely deserves to be on this list. Because I remember that game against what team? Notre Dame in 2006, where he had like 3 touchdowns in the first half. That was the game where I was like, all right, this guy could be really good.
They had a I mean again they had another really solid amount of I like their wide receiver room. Then they had Adrian Arrington, I think they had Junior Hemingway. They might have even had Steve Breston for a little bit
Yep,
there.
they did.
So it's like they had some really solid receivers in that window.
All right, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Hmm, go with. I'm gonna go with Roy Roundtree here.
So Coach Grand Valley.
Yeah, receivers coach at GVSU. He was at Michigan for a while too, there before GVSU. Um, let's see here. I'm pulling up his full stats, but he's like 4th all time. I'm pretty sure in receiving or something like that. 7th, sorry. 2,304 yards. Obviously, he's known for the game winning catches against Notre Dame. Um, he had 72 catches and 935 yards as a sophomore, 7 touchdowns. Signed with the Bengals as an undrafted free agent, but never played in the NFL. Yeah, was just a really solid receiver overall. I mean, I really enjoyed. I think he was probably perfect for Rich Rod's offense. And when Hope came in, it kind of hurt him as from a stats standpoint, but he still had a really productive career. So
I'm gonna take Marquise Walker here next.
okay, yeah, he.
And I think he just kind of got lost behind David Terrell sometimes. And I think he could have had an incredible career even if he was the number one and Terrell wasn't there. One of the more athletic receivers,
He has some of the
Michigan's
best
had.
catches I've ever seen.
Yeah, they were like Kenny Galladay, Calvin Johnson type. I will do whatever to catch this ball. I mean, highlight reel is nice.
Right.
Not a great yards per catch, just under 12 and a half, but he broke the 2,000 receiving yards mark. And I think that extra year that he had at Michigan after Terrell left was I think it was helpful. Didn't have much of an NFL career though.
No,
Yeah, just a really solid go-to guy and nice 1-2 punch back with Terrell.
for sure. I'm gonna go with Jason Avant
Hmm.
here. 2,247 yards receiving in his career. Um, half of them came his senior year, and that was the year after Braylon Edwards left. So that's part of that. So he was kind of that second tier to Braylon, um, and he had a pretty good sophomore year too. But he had 8 touchdowns his senior year, and then he got drafted by the Eagles. I know we're not really talking about that, but he had a pretty good NFL career. He played 10 years in the NFL. Had a good 2011. So overall, really solid receiver. Definitely more of a possession guy, not a big play guy at all by any means. But he was really good. And they had some, like you said, Steve Breston was on some of those teams, and Avant and Edward. It was Breston, Avant, and Edwards on that 2004 team. And that was an impressive team.
There are not a lot of Michigan receivers, by the way, that had played 10 plus years as a
No,
wide receiver in the
the
NFL.
receivers have
I'm pretty
been
sure Avant might be one of the few. Braylon
really
didn't, I think
disappointing
Braylon did 8 or
overall.
9. Braylon did 8, I think. And
Yeah,
then,
and then
Manningham, I
Terrell
think
only
did
played 4 or 5, and then
Manningham did 6 or 7.
yeah, Manningham had some moments, some
He
years where
just
he
had
was.
injuries catch up to him with the
Yeah,
Giants and
and then
stuff.
I'm trying to think.
I think Amani Toomer played for 10 years at
Toomer
least.
played quite a while. He played like 14 years or something.
Mhm.
Actually, I can tell you in a second. He's on here. Ty Streets played for a while too.
Yeah, he was
Uh,
49ers. Derek
yeah,
Alexander played for the Chiefs a little bit.
I mean
And
Desmond Howard
the
played.
Ravens.
Yep, Desmond Howard played for quite a bit too.
I think Breston got a little more longevity. I don't think he did 10, but I think he got longevity because of his return ability.
And he played for the
But,
Cardinals. He had some good seasons with them actually.
mhm. Yeah, same with Howard. I don't know if Howard made it 10.
Toomer played 13 seasons.
Okay. I bet that's probably the longest out of any of these guys
I mean,
off the top of my head.
Desmond won a Super Bowl MVP though. So
It's true. 101-yard kickoff return in the 98 Super Bowl, I think.
Desmond played 11 years.
Okay. Nice. Yeah,
So,
I mean, when you're just a returner, you can have a successful returner. You can have more longevity. Devin Hester is another example.
yeah,
But yeah, number 7, I'm gonna go with Jeremy Gallen.
yeah, he was
That
my
was
next
just
one.
that was
I thought about putting him ahead of on it too. But
Devin Gardner to Gallen was lethal in Japan. They
it
played
was.
together in Japan.
They were great in
Uh,
Japan.
yep, they played really well together in Japan. And I remember Gallen was like my go-to guy in NCAA 14. They
Uh-huh.
had like Martavius Odoms and Gallen, and yeah, those are the guys that were putting up the numbers for me. So um and again, 2,700 plus receiving yards, 175 catches, almost over 15 and a half yards per catch, and 17 touchdowns to go with it. He was incredible. And one of the greatest highlights was Denard Robinson to Jeremy Gallen against Notre Dame,
Uh-huh.
right? So,
The he has the all-time receiving record for a season at Michigan in 2013, and then all-time best game as a receiver. He had 14 catches for 369 yards against Indiana. That also set a Big Ten conference record. So he's
yeah,
he's really
and
good.
he was really good in Japan too. If you look up his
Yeah,
Japan stats,
he's really good. He just the NFL.
and he was
I don't know.
practice squad guy for a couple years, and then he went out.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I don't. It's just obviously he couldn't find a team that would take a chance on him and or stick it out. He was undersized for sure
but
too.
yeah,
So, all right, I'm gonna go. Oh man, let me look up his stats real quick. It's kind of sad that there's no Harbaugh guys in this yet, but I don't really. I mean, we might be getting to that point. I'm gonna go with J.U. Chesson.
yeah, he was my next guy actually.
Um, let me look up the stats
Chesson
real
and
quick.
Darboh days.
I mean, look, they were solid. I mean, I think a lot of the guys that we've had recently have probably been probably more talented overall. But J.U. Chesson could fly. He was good.
I mean,
Over
between him and Chris Evans, probably some of the fastest guys in that team at that time.
almost 1,700 yards receiving. He was really good in 2015 with Jake Rudock throwing him the ball, especially late in the year. He had some really big games. I mean, he had a huge game against Indiana. Um, seems like we just rip apart Indiana sometimes through the air.
Yeah,
I think that
they had
might
like a
have a lot
big.
to do with Indiana, though.
They always had some
Um,
offense, but they had a Big 12 defense if I ever
they
saw one.
did for a while there. And Tom Allen has fixed their defense for the most part, but But yeah, I mean, J.U. Cheston's solid and was always a good returner too. So I thought maybe he had a bit more of a chance in the NFL. But yeah, overall, really solid career and just continue to get better from his, freshman year when he wasn't used as much until he was a senior. He was hurt a little bit as a senior though. But overall, he was pretty explosive too on end arounds. He ran for almost 200 yards his junior year. So good player.
Okay, 9 here. I think I'm gonna go with Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
Probably one of the highest recruit ratings of a receiver that we've had in a long time, if ever,
Maybe,
at Michigan. I think he came in as
Terrell
a
might have
five.
been Terrell might have been higher, but
Okay,
that was back in the day.
yeah, I wasn't around for that one. That was going way back. I was
Yeah.
probably
I
6
think
when
because
he
I
got
think
recruited.
I read something about him being like one of the best I've ever had. So, but Peoples Jones might be it. I mean, you're right.
I mean, he was explosive, but he kind of I think it was the timing that he came kind of when Michigan decided not to utilize receivers as much. Just
Yes.
they had a really good strong run game when he was there. So it's like, and they relied heavily on the run when they at that time they also didn't have your best quarterbacks. So you look at the
Well,
quarterbacks that Peoples Jones had to play with. It's like,
he had to play
okay,
with Spate and Shea
Spate and Shea
Patterson,
Patterson, yeah.
which
So
he had his moments.
and John
Shea senior
O'Korn.
year, he had some big plays, and against Michigan State and stuff like that. But
I just think he
overall,
could have been a really great receiver. He just obviously the utilization wasn't there. I mean, only 103 catches. I think, and probably the targets are lower than a lot of these
the
guys
targets
too.
are a lot lower. I think we
But even
absolutely.
as a kicker, he was a good punt returner for the team at the time. After Jabril Peppers left, when we got him, and it was like,
Yep, we
okay, sweet.
absolutely could have used him more, I think, and I think that's kind of the case with a lot of these. I mean, probably the next guy that I'm going to put on here too.
Mhm.
Sort of a shame that they weren't used as much because they were on the same team. So, that being said, I'm going to go with Nico Collins at number 10.
Right.
Um, Nico's carved out a nice role for himself in the NFL for now. Um, I think he's getting better, but let's see his full stats at Michigan. 78 receptions. That's sad. That should have all happened in one year.
Slee, you're right.
37 catches his senior year, or I'm sorry, junior year. He left after 3 years. A huge game again against Indiana. But he had almost 20 yards a catch his senior year, 7 touchdowns, had 6 touchdowns his junior or his sophomore year. So yeah, overall big play receiver. Definitely a big downfield threat, a lot faster than he looked to. I mean, it would have been really nice to get him back, but then the COVID year hit and he he opted out, which is fine. I mean, he's carved out a career for himself, so I don't really blame him. But yeah, overall, pretty good receiver, and it is a shame those guys like DPJ and Nico just didn't get as many targets. I think if they played on, JJ was their QB or something, I think we'd feel different. I'm not saying like Michigan still runs the ball crap till the load right now, but it's I feel like these guys still get it's the lack of great QB play really hurt them.
Yeah, and so that we did get our 10 there, but there are a lot of like honorable mentions that probably could have mentioned just as well. And I think Darbo is one that we think of, and Ronnie Bell, if he wasn't good for one drop every game, he's probably
I
pretty
think
close.
Ronnie probably. I would say if I were to like somebody, if I were to say we missed somebody, it'd be Ronnie.
Well, that or Steve Breston. I was kind of like up there with Steve
Yeah.
Breston. Junior
Ronnie
Hemingway.
was really good. I think. I mean, I know he had a little bit of a case of the drops, but he was really good. I think you saw it a little bit in that last game too. If he aired it out a little bit more, I think he probably would have had a. I mean, what were his final stats this year? And they were
Ronnie,
probably
yeah.
pretty
I mean, he had
decent.
almost 2,300 receiving yards in his career in Michigan. So, and
Right.
that's with missing almost a whole year. So,
All but one game is last year. I mean, he had almost
granted,
nine.
if he didn't get hurt last year, would he have even come back?
Yeah, I mean, he had 62 catches for about 900 yards this year. I mean, 4 touchdowns, 1 touchdown rushing. I mean, yeah, he had a good career. He was
You
I
get
mean, he was the
Corn.
leading receiver on the team as a sophomore on a team that had DPJ and Nico Collins and some of those guys. So pretty crazy.
Hey, yeah, I mean, my order would have been probably Bell, Darboh, Breston, Hemingway, Arrington,
Yeah.
probably Cornelius Johnson around there.
Cornelius is coming back for one more year too, so he could sneak his way up in
Is
there.
he coming back? Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Cornelius already has 1,450 receiving yards.
Yeah.
He's probably going to break the 2,000 threshold.
You would hope.
Probably the number one receiver on the team going into next year. So
I would think. I mean, yeah. I mean, when we talk about this team next year,
it's like
maybe
Clemens
he
breaks
did.
out.
Yeah, there's gonna be some young guys that are breaking through, but I mean, Cornelius is definitely the guy.
Greg Matthews, Daryl Stoneham,
Some of these guys, I just couldn't put
Martavius
on the
Odoms.
list. I just couldn't
Yeah,
put them on the list because they all had like some of these guys just had like really 4 or 5 really good games, right? Or like half a
Roman
really good
Wilson,
season, maybe
right?
like one really good season, right? But
Yeah,
it's like, all right, I need to see, you know, a lot of these guys had good careers, right? So, like Greg Matthews, perfect example. Like he had some big catches in some big spots, but like overall, you look at his career, and you're like, all right. Odoms, I love Odoms, and I thought he was a great blocker, and he really bought into what Michigan needed, but he was pretty good as a freshman. Like his best stats were probably as a freshman.
if
With
we did
Rich Rod.
20, I bet we get Ronald Bellamy towards that back end there, probably at 18 or 19, right?
Huh? For
But
sure.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, they've had a decent chunk of guys. They probably put Grant Perry at 20 if I went that far.
There you
But
go.
yeah, so tight ends are going to be the next fun part. And I want you to be making that first pick on who's the best tight end since Y2K.
Jake Butt.
You are correct.
Yeah, I mean, arguably best tight end ever at Michigan.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, I'll give him the nod over anybody just because he's really good at analyst right now. So I'll give him that nod. Um, Overall stats. Let's see here. Over almost 1,700 yards receiving. Won the Mackey Award is was it his senior year? I can't remember whether it was junior or senior year. It really doesn't matter. I think it was actually his senior year, but he was better stats his junior year. Um, yeah, it was his senior year. Yeah, I would say. I mean, he 37 starts in his career. Pretty much was just a dominating force as a tight end for a good period of time there. And he was easily Harbaugh's best tight end. And yeah, just a great career. Shame that it didn't work out in the NFL. Shame that he tore his knee up in that Orange Bowl.
Twice.
And then
Yeah.
in the Orange Bowl, and then again with again after that in the NFL. So I think he
I
could
think
have
he
had a
could have been
really
at
good
least
NFL career.
at worst been a really good number 2 tight end for a
I think
team.
so too. I think he could have been a number one that he never
Or at
got.
least probably almost half the league probably
I
could have
mean,
been
when
number
did
one.
he? What was he? A fourth round pick, right?
Yeah, for the Broncos.
Yeah, fourth round pick. If he never gets hurt, he could be as high as a third or maybe even a second.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of
Uh,
people actually had him as a second rounder until
and then he
that
tore his
injury.
knee up, right? So he couldn't do anything at the combine, but fell to a fourth. But I think he could have been really good.
That was the same year that like Jalen Smith killed his draft stock too
Mhm.
from Notre Dame. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was just a fluke year where that's when bull opt outs got like crazy high after those
Yep.
injuries,
He
though. They
even
kind of
says,
set
I mean, he doesn't regret playing, but
yeah,
looking
no, but
back,
they
it's
did
like,
set a precedent. There are a lot of opt outs now kind of in bowl games because of that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Number 2, I'm going to take Devin Funchess since we agreed we will use him as a tight end in this list.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, he came to Michigan as a tight end, did 2 years there, and then he switched his junior year to wide receiver. Won the Qualit Clark tight end of the year in 2013 and was all Big Ten and 13 and 14. So, yeah, and he has had a long NFL career. We're not gauging their NFL career,
No.
but putting up over 1,700 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns is nothing to scoff at, despite, well, maybe probably over half of that coming as a wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, again, he was
Jack of
Yeah,
all
I mean,
trades,
yeah,
master
a
of
lot of
none.
it would be he's just a big. I would just say he's a massive, oversized wide receiver, but at the same time, he was a pretty good tight end overall too.
He was like the same size as Kelvin Johnson, but he couldn't run a 4.35 like Kelvin Johnson.
Exactly. Um, I am going to go with. So you said Funchess. I'm going to go with Benny Joperu.
Yeah, I was thinking him. Yep.
Um, 85 catches, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Had some big games against Illinois. Overall, really solid. Um, had played a lot his first 2 years, but he had some big stats his senior year with 53 catches and 5 touchdowns. All American third team after his senior year, and he was a second round pick by the Texans.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a little bit of an NFL bust being a second round pick. Didn't have some great numbers in the NFL, but
Probably overdrafted for sure. I would say
yeah,
he was of reach,
it
right?
happens to every college though. We're not gonna
But,
just.
I mean, tight ends are a weird position to draft. I will say that right now.
It's a hard
Tight
position
ends,
to learn at the NFL level. There's so
tight
much
ends and corners are positions that it's like I don't like
because
taking
it's
that
such a
way.
hybrid position. You're either fast or you're a blocker, and you have to decide what
And
team
you
can
have to fit the
utilize you in that way.
scheme, right? And everybody's looking for the next Travis Kelsey now,
Mm.
and Gronk and all those guys.
Even
And
though
that's
Kelsey wasn't even drafted that high,
exactly
it's crazy.
Gronk
But
either. Gronk wasn't high, wasn't too high.
no, yeah.
So
Yeah, I would have gone back and forth between Jopper, but I'll take my other option here in the Zach Gentry.
yep,
Um, over 800 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in his career. Um, I think he was a quarterback when he came
he
to
did. He
Michigan.
was. Yep, out of New Mexico, I believe, is where he's from.
You know, that's it worked out for him because I think he would have been buried on that depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, think about the size Zach Gentry got, and you're like, that guy was a quarterback. My goodness.
That would have
Um,
been fun. That would have been fun for like some plays at least.
It took him a little while to get rapport, but yeah, him and Shea Patterson eventually he kind of like turned into like an elite Luke Schoonmaker for Shea Patterson.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Sean McCune
Yeah.
next. 60 catches, just under 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. Had some nice games. Sort of an up and down career. Was a good blocker. Turned himself into a really good blocking tight end. And he's made a little niche career for himself in the NFL with the Cowboys, and he's appeared in some games. He had some nice games in the NFL too. So overall, I think he deserves to be on this list. I mean, I think he's probably is he always? I don't think he's like criminally underrated necessarily because he had some times where I'm like, this guy stinks, but I think he overall everybody should look at his career and think it was
He
pretty.
was there with when Ian Bunting transferred to Cal.
Yep.
Um,
We had some tight ends. Devin
Devin
Asiasi
Asiasi
transferred from
transferred though
UCLA.
out of
He's
UCLA. So
who's he playing for now? Because he was in the playoffs.
uh correct. We ranked him on he was in the NFC championship list. So I'm trying
Yeah.
it was one of those teams.
Cincinnati. He plays for Cincinnati.
Yeah, sincere. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I think it's too early to take him yet. Yes. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he was fine. I'll take Kevin Koger.
Yeah.
756
Great.
receiving yards, just under 60 catches, but he had 9 touchdowns. And again, he played with like a lot of Martell Webb was there when he
And he
was
played in
there.
an offense that really didn't have the tight end much.
No, I remember, but it was like AJ Williams and Martell Webb were kind of there when he was there. Brandon Moore,
Mm-hmm.
Steve Watson,
Uh-huh.
just not really a good tight end room, but I think he kind of was like there's no depth behind him. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just a reliable tight end.
Yeah.
Just yeah, and he blocked. He blocked really well. So
Good blocker, solid. I mean, I think he was a good receiver. I think he would have been really good in like the offenses today. Um, but now he's a tight ends coach for the Chargers. So,
it's been good. Where are they now? Update
yeah,
brought to you by Ben Wheaton.
yeah. But good for him. He's in the NFL somehow.
So Tyrone Wheatley Jr. next.
No.
Ooh,
You see his dad. You see Tyrone Wheatley is the head coach at Wayne State now.
I think Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is still on a practice squad though as an
I
offensive
mean,
tackle.
I would understand it. Yeah, he easily could be.
He became a tackle, so that was something.
I mean,
He
he
did the
was
opposite.
huge. He was the biggest tight end I've ever seen in my entire life.
AJ Williams was huge too.
They're up there. AJ Williams was 6'9",
Yeah, he was like 270.
and a gazillion pounds. All right, I'm going to take Tyler Ecker here. Almost 700 yards, 57 catches, 6 touchdowns. Had some big games, big in 05 against Notre Dame. Ecker is one of the first tight ends I like vividly remember as like a Michigan fan growing up. Like, I don't know, like those are my first teams, probably starting in 2002, 2003, that I can like legitimately remember like whole games watching. So, because I was just too young before that. And Ecker was on a lot of those teams, and he was very good. He was never like a game-changing tight end, but he's a good run blocker, and he got drafted by the Redskins in the 7th round. So overall, really good career.
Forgot we could have done Lateral Savoy as a wide receiver.
Oh
Shoot.
yeah.
He would have been right there at 7 for me.
He'd been right there at 700.
Yes.
No, he made a big catch against Notre Dame.
Yeah. I remember he had some
too.
flashes. He had some flashes.
He dropped
He was
one
like
badly
Drake
too.
Harris. He was
Yeah.
Drake Harris.
Drake Harris, we could have put him on the list too.
Wow. Yeah. If we're digging like to bottom 35. Yeah.
Drake Harris finished his career at Western Michigan. So,
I mean,
no.
but Eric All is my next pick as a tight end. He's going to finish his career at Iowa probably with
That's
Cade
okay.
McNamara.
That's all right.
But yeah, Eric All with what he showed in his time here in Michigan, it's like, Michigan has enough tight ends where it's like you're not freaking out by any means for the position, especially getting AJ Barner as well in the transfer portal. But yeah, Eric All I remember him putting on the Jets against Penn State and putting us in the position there to win that game. And you could like sense that it was a bit of a drop off. Schoonmaker stepped up this year, but like it was even when he had his back injury at first last year. And it's like, okay, I miss Eric Hall.
He should be fondly remembered. Like he could have been one of the best we've had if he never got hurt, and obviously now he's leaving, but he should be remembered well, I think. I'm gonna go with Nick Eubanks at 9.
Played with Eric Hall for a year, I think.
45 catches, almost 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. I always thought he could have been better than he really was. He did some really dumb things too. Like some extremely dumb things. A lot of times like running the wrong route, a lot of drops. But he was explosive. 2019, he had 4 receiving touchdowns. Honorable mention All Big Ten that year. Surprisingly, that actually surprises me. Must have been a tough year from tight end standpoint. And then got, undrafted free agent for the Cowboys. So I think he had an overall pretty good career. He was always super athletic, like almost wide receiver level speed, but just could never really put it all together. But he was fun to watch when he did something right. This one's tough. I'm happy I don't have 10.
I mean, yeah. I'm not. Colson Loveland's not there for me. I'm not picking
No,
Colson.
he hadn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
In fact, he was
in fact, he had a
legitimately
terrible
bad against TCU. Yes, he was legitimately not
terrible
good.
in TCU. Yeah. That TCU game made me a little more nervous for next year. But again, AJ Barner, we're fine.
Well, he'll be fine.
Okay. You're okay. You're right. Tim Massaquoi is not a bad option here. I'll keep that here in the back of my pocket if it gets to that point. Deton Dubuk.
Right. Carson Butler.
One of the first guys to follow me on my Michigan fan account.
Who?
Deton Dubuk. I follow all former Michigan players on Instagram on one of my accounts, and he was one of the first guys to follow me back. He gave me a chance. He took a chance on me.
He took a chance on you. Good for
that
him.
I wasn't some weird creeper, I am still a weird creeper, but I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if that's what happened.
Right. Let's see here. Petition to move Perry Dorenstein to tight end? No.
I would still go with Schoonmaker here.
Joel Honigford.
No.
Yeah, no. Schoonmaker and Massaquoi, they're options here
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your results?
Yeah, I'm like making this like brain surgery basically. It shouldn't be this hard. But uh okay. I still think I'm going to take Tim Massaquoi here.
Sure.
Um and yeah, three plus years there. I think he had like 500 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think he ended up getting in the NFL for a couple years.
He did. He did. He and Ecker played on some of the same teams, so they were both. It was a solid tight end group.
Yeah, I was looking at
Massaquoi
some of
just
those
dealt with a bunch
rooms.
of
Yeah.
injuries, so
Well, Massaquoi also played with Benny Joppru, I
yeah,
think a year or two. So,
yep,
um, but yeah, Massaquoi, Ecker. Oh, they had Mike Massey there for a minute.
yep. He had some good
So,
tight ends.
yeah.
Some white card stuff.
So, I mean, yeah, I think Schoonmaker's probably the next guy up for me, but
Yeah.
I felt like Massaquoi's. I mean, they're both going to have NFL careers, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Schoonmaker, Harbaugh's already said he's going to be playing on Sundays. So
I think. I think he's. Schoonmaker's obviously gone this next year. I think he gets drafted. I really do.
sixth
Late.
round probably though.
I think he's late. Yeah, I think he's a sixth, maybe seventh. But I think he gets taken. Um, so for sure.
Let me pull this here up.
All right.
See what I see.
Yeah, I see what you see.
All right. Well, yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this bad boy. Who are the Bears gonna take at one if they don't trade? We're not gonna do tradesies right now.
Okay, I really do think they probably will trade it, but I would if they don't trade it, I'm taking Jalen Carter if I'm them.
Yeah, if they don't or can't, I don't know if they're gonna be willing, if they're gonna be picky. I don't know if they're that picky where they're like, we have to have an absurd offer to take it, or if they're
Yeah,
gonna be
because to
like,
me it almost seems like all right, what's the like?
they have
I
enough
don't know.
needs though, where it's like if they get a decent offer, they should probably take it.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter where they what they do. I think. I would take Jalen Carter.
There's Jalen Carter too if they can't get out of here. And then I think this is Bryce Young, right?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think he falls past the
I could
Texans.
see Will Anderson being in a Cardinals uniform.
Yeah, I'd go with Will Anderson.
Glenn or whoever else they decide to hire there in Arizona. Do they want to keep Kyler Murray?
Correct.
Or
But
is the pull for a coach to go there? Hey,
I think they're gonna stick with Kyler. Obviously, they decided to they went one way or the other. You either stick with if you feel like it's not Kyler's fault and it's more of or it is Kyler's fault, then you obviously maybe stick with the coach and give up on the quarterback. But if it's not, if you feel like it's not Kyler's fault, then you obviously sticking with him, which is what they did. So
So you think it's Will Anderson here probably?
I think it's got to be Will Anderson. I don't think they take quarterback yet. Now, maybe the year after, if Kyler still stinks or just didn't figure it out, but I think they got to figure out. Obviously, he and Kingsbury just didn't get along. So,
And then Colts are going to take quarterback. The new coach coming in gets a third choice
Stroud.
At a QB. So is it Stroud or Levis or
Stroud.
yeah?
It's
I
going to be
probably
Jeff Saturday. Watch.
Jeff Saturday's got to take a white quarterback then, right?
You would think, but I don't know.
All right, Seahawks through the Denver trade. Yeah, they do need a lot of O-line help, but
I mean, you could go with Paris Johnson. Dewan Jones made himself some money.
There's no way Jalen Carter gets past this spot though. Let's just say that if Jalen Carter's available here at 5, I still feel like it's got to be Jalen Carter here.
Yes,
they could use some interior help.
They could use some interior help, and not only that, I think it's just. I mean, he eventually like I think he's the best player in the draft, right? So eventually, you have to take you just go with best player available, right? And especially if it's like, all right, this guy's the best. So I'm probably gonna go with, if I'm them, either Paris Johnson.
I think Brazzi is another guy that you see
Rusty
here.
is a chance. I'm interested to see how he does at the combine. I know he was pretty good this year, but he wasn't like just incredible. So I'll probably go with, yeah, I'm probably going with Paris Johnson.
I mean, they can kick anybody in, even if I mean he's a tackle. They can kick anyone around. NFL
Yeah,
linemen these days have shown they're versatile and the fact that they can just be flipped around. So
no doubt.
who's that leave here for the Lions? Obviously, we'd love a Jalen Carter right here, but
Yeah, I mean,
is this
obviously,
a
if
spot where
Carter,
we reach on a corner?
I don't want. See, here's the thing: if you're gonna take a corner, you take Witherspoon, right? And I would love Witherspoon, but I'm sitting here going, I don't. I have PTSD of taking a corner that high.
I want to take Trenton. I like Trenton Simpson, but like at 18.
Right. I mean, or do you go safety here and you go with Branch?
Just
Safety.
I don't think I want Brand. I think I've kind of gone back and forth on Christian Gonzalez and Keely Ringo and
Mm-hmm.
Joey
Keely
Porter Jr. is
Ringo,
probably
Keely Ringo, I think has potential to be awesome, but um, yeah, I'm not taking him that high. I, if the Lions really want to do some damage,
you
they
take
trade up.
Skaronski and move a guy inside.
No,
Oh.
absolutely not.
You take Anthony Richardson.
Absolutely not.
I mean, we don't need edge. That's what's like annoying is you see Miles Murphy and Tyree Wilson. It's like that's like the not position we don't
Yeah, but
need.
maybe you take him anyway. you know, and
I would
figure it
rather
out.
take Bruzzy than in this point. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I can go with Brezzy there. I'm good with that. Because
Okay.
he's probably second best interior defensive tackle. So I would
Levi's
go.
not working out anymore, it looks like. So
No,
do they take Levis here? The Raiders, do they move on to a quarterback? Or do they work in free agency?
I think they're going to work in free agency. That's my take on what they're going to do. But
So do you think they take Branch here? They could use safety help.
yes,
Take another Alabama guy and hope that guy doesn't go to prison.
yes.
All right.
Just don't give them any fast cars.
Falcons and Panthers also will need quarterbacks probably, so it's going to be interesting to see who goes.
Correct.
And right now you're pretty much looking at like Tanner McKee is probably the guy that is next down on this list. Let's see who the quarterback. Let me check the quarterbacks right now. Oh, I mean they could go Richardson here for sure. Maybe they do want a mobile quarterback like Richardson.
They might. I just don't know if, I mean, because really, I'm not taking anybody past Richardson anytime before like the third round or the fourth.
I
In
could
my
see
opinion.
McKee being a second rounder, but
I guess I mean,
after that it's a huge fall. Like I ain't touching anyone after like the fifth.
I mean, I like Hendon Hooker late. Hendon Hooker late is great value in my opinion.
Lions have spent a lot of time with him, but if they get him, they have to take him fourth round or later. I'm not going to be
Right.
happy with anyone.
No, not at all. I can see him taking Levis here though.
Dude, I was just like picturing like since I've seen Michael Vick in a Falcons uniform, I'm like Anthony Richardson.
I mean, it could be it, or I mean, but the problem is, I mean, they like Desmond Ritter? Do they are they all over that guy? I don't know. Probably not.
That's a good point. And Ritter actually didn't do too shabby in his
No, he
time
was
that he
fine.
played.
He just didn't.
He
I
didn't
mean,
make
terrible
mistakes. He didn't make
team.
a lot of mistakes. Let's just say
Terrible team. So let's see what else we got on here. I mean, Miles Murphy makes sense here as well.
they do need edge help. Yeah, Tyree Wilson.
I think they take Miles. I would take Miles Murphy if I'm them.
And Panthers again looking at a quarterback.
Levis.
But I think they have to take quarterback, right?
Levis.
Yeah, this has to be Levis.
See, Levis is the safer pick
Richardson.
than Richardson. I don't. Levis is the safer pick than Richardson though, and I think they want probably safe here. Okay.
And yeah, the final one here is essentially it's the Eagles.
There's no way they go receiver, right?
Do you think Quentin Johnson? Right.
No way. There's no way. He's not that good. This receiver class to me stinks.
It's very mediocre.
It's not
Do you
good.
think Skaronski's maybe the guy? they have a good line. I mean, it's like their
Yeah,
line
but
isn't
you got
that
to
bad.
build. I mean, there's a reason they've gotten this good. They built depth. Yeah, I think so. I think Skronski's probably the guy at that point.
Or do they want the workhorse running back and they take Bijan Robinson?
No way.
Do you think
No.
Miles
Top
Sanders is the
10?
guy?
Top
Do you
10
think I
though?
know, but I think Bijan Robinson's a game changing running back, honestly.
I think he is too. He's
Like I'm not even anti him at 18 if he falls to the Lions. If they move on from Jamal
no,
Williams and Swift.
no,
But
I
he's the
wouldn't.
guy that should get you 20 plus carries a game. He could be that
You would
Derrick
think.
Henry.
Yeah, I mean he's the that type of guy, but I'm not taking him top 10. I'm going
No,
with
I mean, but like
Skronsky.
Skronsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
If the
do they
Lions
think
want, I mean,
do
we
they
can
like
talk about the
Goddard
Lions.
or do they like Michael Meyer?
Goddard.
You think Goddard's a solid one yet?
Yes.
He used to be the elite two.
I know. I think he's a
With
solid one.
okay, so let's stick with that. All right, then I think yes, Skoronski's probably the guy I'm going with. Their secondary wasn't bad. They had Bradbury, although Bradbury's going to be a free agent.
They're a
So,
loaded team, though. I mean, if you really think about it, they are really good.
but I
So,
think Avante Maddox and Bradbury are both free agents after this. So it's Darius
yep.
Slay who's getting older. Do they
Yep.
replace him?
Yeah.
You see,
So
like a
they could
Christian
consider
Gonzalez.
corner if the right corner's there. So they could consider Devon Witherspoon.
I think Christian Gonzalez is probably better. I think I've seen a lot of Witherspoon, but like I've watched some Gonzalez too.
I would if Witherspoon's at 18 for the Lions, I'm taking him if I'm the Lions.
I would take almost there's these corners. I would take. I don't know if I'd take Cam Smith at 18, but I would take Joey Porter Jr. at 18.
Absolutely.
I would take Keely Ringo at 18, probably.
100%.
Eli Ricks, probably not. I don't know if I'd
No.
quite go with Ricks yet,
No, but those
but
top three corners or so, I would
three or
take all
four maybe
day.
even. Yeah, I mean Witherspoon, Gonzalez, uh, Ringo, and Porter Jr. Those would be the four guys I would take there at 18.
Yep.
So yeah, it's up to you. Do you think Skoronski's still the
Yeah, I
best
still
pick?
think if this is how it fell, I think Skoronski's probably the guy.
All right, so Witherspoon went next according to this. All right.
Huh.
So do the Texans take Anthony Richardson now, even though they just took Bryce Young? They can battle it.
No.
Obviously. Yeah.
Um,
They could use a wide receiver. Quentin Johnson, the big body, or do they like Nico Collins as their big body receiver?
I could see them going. Man, this is tough for them because I mean, I like going position of need here, but if you're going to go wide receiver, I would take one of the
Or
smaller
tight
guys.
end. They have a horrible tight end. I think maybe Meyer is the guy here.
Yeah, Meyer might be a guy there. I hate taking tight ends myself.
They don't have a
that
good running
early.
back either. Do you like the Damian? Oh, they just drafted Pierce, so they probably
Pierce
still
is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they're not going to give up on that just after
So
1 year.
maybe edge. Do they take best player available and just take their edge? Tyree Wilson.
That would make sense because right now, if you're them, you don't have
They
the
need
luxury.
everything. They need
You don't have
everything.
the luxury of just picking based on need. You just need to pick the best football players around. So,
Who falls to the Lions here? All right. So who went above?
well,
So Anthony Richardson went, Gonzalez went, Vanessa, Meyer, Johnson. So we still do have Bijan Robinson there. That also means we still have Porter Jr. and Ringo.
I really like Keely Ringo personally.
I do. I really like Keeler. He's got a little bit of bust potential, but he's also super boom. Like he could
Yep.
be Sauce Gardner boom, you know?
Yep. Yep. I like Keely Ringo a lot.
That really Zach Charbonnet? That's not Zach Charbonnet. That
No,
picture is not Zach
not
Charbonnet.
Zach Charbonnet. That is just some other guy.
You could have sold me more, and that's Mike Morris, who doesn't even have a picture of him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's Mike Morris, just that big M right there.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and Smith and Jigba went next. Yeah,
Mhm.
so we don't have to go any further than that. Granted, if I make this pick here, maybe I just do Zay Flowers. They need a wide receiver. Sure. You're
Yep.
welcome. Let's just see what happens. All right. The Dolphins forfeit their pick. What did they do again? Did they cheat?
Yeah, something happened where or like tampering or something, right?
Oh, that was the tampering one, yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it the two mishandlings? Who knows?
Could have been that too. They gave up picks because they played him with a concussion.
Some punishment though, but it tells teams not to screw around.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sucks because Trenton Simpson was a guy I would have definitely targeted on the next pick.
Yep.
But Bijan's not going to fall. I didn't think he would.
The the thing is, if I'm the Lions, I'm sitting there going, okay, we didn't get great linebacker play, but it was passable when the D line was wreaking havoc. So you could do one of two things with the first pick. You could bolster the D line even more, interior, right? Which the only guy that in the first top 10, there's two guys in the top 10, Brezzy or Carter. You'd love to be able to get Carter, but that's probably not going to happen unless you trade it up somehow.
I don't think I'm mad if we get Bruzzy and Ringo in this draft.
No, I'd be super happy with that.
Yeah.
But you still would love a different linebacker too.
That's
I
a
mean,
huge need. That's the problem. It's like if they had 3 first-round picks, sweet.
I like Rodriguez, I really do, and I like Anzalone, how hard they play, but they're eternally in the wrong gap.
You think if they can trade back out of like 6 though, down to like, what? I don't know, maybe like 10 or something, and then they can still get a guy, and then they keep 18, but they probably have another pick that moves into the first round, so they get 3 first-round picks. It's like I'm not
I don't
really
hate
against
that.
because again, we talked about how the Texans don't have the luxury to do that, but the Lions are in a little more of a position where they're like,
Or what I would do if I'm the Lions, Lions have the luxury where they could trade the number 6 pick for a veteran corner, a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson level guy. That's who I would go after. So that's what I would definitely go after, a veteran, and then, if you have to forfeit that pick, if you get a guy that can be like a for sure number 1 corner, and then you have your Akutas or your Akuda or Jacobs.
Tracy Walker's coming back too.
Tracy Walker's coming back, so you got to figure the safety position is going to be better, and then you draft the safety at 18, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any chance that Branch falls to 18, but if he does, yes, please.
Yeah. So then you're feeling pretty good. Then you got bolstered safety. You feel good about Kirby Joseph. You feel good about
Deshaun Elliott, maybe, right?
What's that?
Is Deshaun Elliott back?
Maybe.
If that's the case, he's probably not back, right? I mean,
probably not if they take one, but you feel good about that at that point. I just think if the Lions want to take the next step, I think it's defense early, offense late in this draft, and hopefully you get some re-signings on the offensive side of the ball, and you just go for it at that point. I mean, hopefully get better. You get Jameson Williams fully healthy, involved.
Akuda finally takes that step.
Akuda finally takes a step. You figure out what you're doing at the running back position. You go, and if you just bolster corner and you bolster safety, I think it should be a really good team next year.
Yeah, exciting things amidst, that's for sure. So, yeah, next week we'll grade offensive. We'll probably do separate again, like tackles, guards, centers, and we'll just run those. And I'll see if we do maybe top 8 in each one of those. But
we'll see how the list looks first.
Yeah,
there's been some good guys there.
They've had really good tackles, that's for sure.
Yeah,
centers, they've been solid at center.
There's been some good centers. David Molk won the Remington.
Yeah, I mean Olusegun, right?
Olu, and then
Greg Crippen. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, even Andrew Vastardis is on that list, right?
Vastardis. I mean, yeah, we got some dudes. So I feel pretty good about those lists. And we've had some, especially the past 3 or 4 years, I've had some loaded offensive lines. So
go more's to go around. So
yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you next week then.
Sounds good.
All right, man.